Hare Krishna.
Time's going fast here.
It's going so fast. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। It's okay. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the 5th canto, chapter number 3, entitled Rishabdev's Appearance, text number 19.
We stopped at 16, maybe we can read.
We stopped at 16?
Yes, you can read 17 and 18.
Okay, okay.
No, no, it's not true. No, sorry.
I was told 1920, but yeah.
No, it's true, yeah, sorry. 19.
Okay. We'll just, the text, all the shlokas are in prose. So please repeat after me word by word. Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shuka Uvacha.
Shri Shukadev Goswami said.
Shukadev Goswami said.
Iti.
Iti.
Thus. Nishamyayantaha.
Nishamyayantaha.
Who was listening.
Who was listening.
Meru Devyaha.
Meru Devya.
In the presence of Meru Devi.
In the presence of Meru Devi.
Patim.
Patim.
Unto her husband.
Unto her husband.
Abhidhaya.
Abhidhaya.
Having spoken.
Having spoken.
Antardadhe.
Antardadhe.
Disappeared.
Disappeared.
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Shri Shuka Uvacha iti nishamyantya marudevyaha patin abhidhayantartate Bhagavan. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Shri Shukdev Goswami continued. After saying this, the Lord disappeared. The wife of King Nabhi, Queen Meru Devi, was sitting by the side of her husband, and consequently she could hear everything the Lord had spoken. Purport. According to the Vedic injunctions, one should perform sacrifices in the company of one's own wife. Sapatni ko dharmam acharet. Religious rituals should be performed with one's wife. Therefore, Maharaj Nabhi conducted his great sacrifice with his wife by his side. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be amongst all of you after a pretty long time. Happy to be seeing wonderful devotees, and seeing the familiar faces again is always a great joy. It's a proof that the movement is working, the process is working. So, this beautiful chapter, the canto entitled, I think, Creative Impetus. That's what the 5th canto is. Yeah. And this couple of chapters since the beginning of the 5th chapter, 5th canto, is all about maybe populating the entire universe and setting the initial roles and orders in place. I think it's fine. So contrary to the very mood of the Bhagavatam, which focuses simply on unalloyed devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the creative impetus is all about engaging with this world, engaging in the world, populating the universes, populating the planetary systems, populating various different aspects of creation with different species, and also getting involved with the 3 modes of material nature. So from the point of view of pure devotional service, it appears very contrary, and that has also been the discussion in the previous 2 chapters than this, where the great devotees of the Lord are engaged by the Lord Himself in a manner, in a very subtle and discreet manner, that they themselves also don't realize that they are the part of this grand plan or game of the Lord. And therefore, there is also this idea that why should the great devotees of the Lord, who are fully attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with single point attention, whose minds are attracted naturally to the lotus feet of the Lord, why should they get engaged in the family life and get involved with this material world? For an ordinary mind, duality is easier to comprehend. For us, it is very easy if someone tells this is good and this is bad. This is day, this is night. This is the purpose of the day, this is the purpose of the night. This is the purpose of the knife, this is the purpose of the plate, and so on. So it becomes very easy for an ordinary mind to comprehend the dualities. Because dualities also help us to define things clearly. So you see the floor, and then you see the sky, you see the light, and you see the wood. Everything is different, and so you can bring these elements together to make a temple, to make prasad, or so many other things, our clothes and everything. But the more you focus at the fundamental nature, these dualities don't seem to exist. Not just at the spiritual level, even at the material level, these dualities don't exist at the fundamental level. Let's say when you break this wood into atoms, it's just like the smallest particle, it will become atom. The stone will also become atom, this metal will also become atom, the plastic will become atom, the cloth will become atom. Everything becomes atoms and electrons. In fact, in our school subjects we must have learned this. You know the Mendeleev periodic table? Heard about it, right? It has 108 elements. Huh? Yeah. It has 108 elements. Yeah. So what is that? How are these different elements actually? If at the fundamental level everything is carbon atoms and bonding of atoms and electrons, then how do these different elements come? It is just the same atoms and electrons when they are bonded in a different combination, then something is called as hydrogen, something is called oxygen, something is called aluminium, something is called gold, something is called silver. But essentially, even at the core chemical structure, it is just those same fundamental particles combining in different formats. So the more you go, even in this material world, at the root level, the dualities don't exist. Then there would be no 108 elements, there's just one element. And even so the scientists recently, they have tried to find out what is the root of atom and electron and proton and neutron, all this. They have found that actually there is no difference even between an electron and proton at the root level. It's just strings all across, and their vibrations, if they vibrate in this manner, then it is called proton. If this vibrate in this manner, it is called electron. So the more you go at a fundamental level, there are no physical dualities also. That is so mysterious. So what to talk about here when great devotees, when we are talking about varnashram, someone is a grahastha, someone is a brahmachari, someone is a sannyasi, someone is a muni, somebody is a great devotee, and so many differences are there in the varnashram, and the differences are put because they are necessary for the progress, for the furthering of the creation. Like say for example, we have some brahmacharis in our temples, so they are furthering some roles in the system. Then we have grihasthas, they are the family members, they are furthering some role, and so on. So it makes it easier. But the more you go to the root level, you understand that the entire creation is actually created to serve the Lord. There is only one single purpose of the creation, that everyone who is part of this creation is just serving the Supreme Whole. And in serving the Supreme Whole, there is no separate necessity for the living entity to serve himself for the sake of his pleasures or satisfaction. And once this concept is very well understood, then all these various ashrams, those varnas and ashrams and roles and responsibilities, they all converge on one single principle, is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead should not be seen as different from our satisfaction. In the initial stage of life, we do see that my pleasure and God's pleasure, we see it as different. But when we get more and more closer to our natural self, we see that essentially there is no difference. If you satisfy the Lord, naturally you are satisfied without any extra effort. Your own senses are satisfied. If someone tries to take a different approach, not just if one says that, okay, I do not recognize God, but I recognize my true self. Okay, just as a spirit soul, if one attempts to satisfy oneself in the purest manner, try to meditate and concentrate who you are, what are your desires, why you want to do certain things. Even when you try to satisfy yourself in that manner, automatically you will be able to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the satisfaction of the true self, in the sense that by investigating into oneself, is equivalent to the effort in trying to satisfy the Lord, or even vice versa. These are not two different things. So here, in these chapters, we are seeing that King Nabhi, who also is actually a great devotee of the Lord, he's also his father Agnidra, he was great devotee of the Lord, and his grandfather Priyavrat, he was also the great devotee of the Lord, and not just great devotees, pure devotees. So it is so amazing that Priyavrat, who is already a so great pure devotee, he gets baffled by the beauty of the creation and he starts engaging himself in this world. That Brahma himself has to come and convince him that please do not see difference in engaging in this world as far as the procreation is concerned and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead is concerned. Now this is so interesting to note, because Priyavrat, he is already coming with lot of spiritual background. He understands that all these mind and senses, they are just designed to fulfill themselves. See, the nature of our eyes is that it wants to naturally look to something which is beautiful. When we say that, oh, this country is beautiful, this lake is beautiful, mountain is beautiful, and if something is ugly, we don't want to go back there. Who decides why you don't want to go and visit some place? It's just experiences. Sensory experiences. If the senses were designed in a reverse manner, like say the senses of crows, when scriptures say that wherever there is garbage, it will attract crows. Wherever there are dead, rotten bodies, it will attract vultures. Our senses are not designed like that. When we define something as good and beautiful and wonderful, it is because just purely our sensory direction. It has nothing to do anything beyond that. You cannot absolutely say that this river is beautiful and this lake is beautiful. If you were to analyze the river and the lake from the vultures or other microorganisms, probably they'll feel that this is such a contaminated place. There is nothing to eat and feast. They are just nice living bodies. What use is this place? We would rather want a war field where there are dead bodies and flesh, not a feasting ground. So technically, anything in this creation which we feel is beautiful and attractive is because of the definition given or experience given by our own senses, and specifically human senses. The same thing a rat would see differently, a pig would see differently, and so on. So our very definitions of good, bad, right and wrong is just because of the human senses, nothing else. So Brahma is trying to tell, so therefore Priyavrat, knowing that nothing in this world is worthy to pay so much attention for and accept the holy names of the Lord, His pastimes and so on, because they are absolute. No matter what species a person is in, the activities of the Lord don't change in an experiential manner. Like for us, this material world will give a different experience. As I said, if we are a different species, it will give a total different experience. Experience of Switzerland is so different than experience of, let's say, Palestine or Israel, whatever conflicts happening in different places, or let's say the Sahara Desert. It's on the human level, it's different. It would be totally different elsewhere. And therefore the great devotees of the Lord, they don't pay attention to the directions given by the mind, understanding that it is just one of the another distracting senses. And therefore, when I define that this person is beautiful, he or she is good to be my partner and good to carry my family and so on, it has no meaning. And this is the very reason why the great devotees of the Lord, they do not want to waste any time. But somehow or other they struggle, they meditate for years and years together, engaging the mind and senses, fighting the mind and senses so that one does not get distracted. At the end of the day, what are you trying not to get distracted? You are trying to not get distracted, not of that object per se, because if you were in different species, that object would not be attractive. So our actual struggle is not to run away from any object, but is to deal with our own senses. If we have a different set of senses, the experience changes. So actual struggle is just that. And therefore the yogis and munis, when they do meditation, they close their eyes. We have this practice of thinking about the Lord, chanting the Hare Krishna every day, morning, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. We are trying to only deal with the senses. That's it. We have no friend, no enemy, no distraction which is outside. The distraction is in the construction of our own body and mind. That's it. And the whole process of sadhana is that. And once a person is able to do that, then he rises beyond the senses. So you don't need to rise beyond the beauty and the object and the pleasures of things. You just have to rise above your own senses. There is no other struggle actually. And therefore, when Priyavrata is told that you have to now populate the universe, he is thinking that to populate the universe, I have to get involved with someone. How can you beget a child if you have no love and affection with someone? How can you start a family properly? Yes, one can always have sex with anyone, that is possible. But if you want to truly have a family, there must be affection. There must be love. There must be support, caring. So many other things are there. So that requires that you get emotionally involved. And once you get emotionally involved, you get involved also with your mind, your senses, your intelligence. And therefore he is thinking that this is going to be such a great distraction to the very purpose of human life. If being a human being, the only species which can actually aspire for God, the only single species, if being that and I am going to defeat the very purpose, what good is my life? So imagine that the creator of the universe, Brahma, has to come in person to convince this person that no, although it appears that you are going to get engaged in family life, it is ultimately for the pleasure of the Lord. It is ultimately in the grand plan of this majestic creation. So although you will get involved and you may feel that you are getting distracted, know for sure that there is an act or plan of God in this. So this is very difficult to comprehend. When we read the Bhagavatam, even when you read the first canto, you hear about King Parikshit and Queen Kunti and Bhishma and all. All of these are great kings who have accomplished so many things in life. But towards the, let's say even for that matter, Arjun, he fought a grand battle. But when he lost from simple cowherd boys in the mountains, the story comes in the first canto, He thinks that how is it possible that I, who had won over so many kings in such a grand battlefield, how could I lose in front of ordinary people who are not even trained with bows and arrows and swords? They are just like farmers, shepherds, cowherd boys. How could I just get defeated? And it's at that moment he realizes that actually my entire life, when I was thinking that I was accomplishing great things and so on, yes, there were so many moments that appeared overwhelming, that there was a problem and I had to personally go, I had to personally deal. But then at that moment he realizes that no, it was not just me. There were different forces acting through me. Bhishma also realizes this, the grandfather of both sides of the Kaurava families. He also realizes, Bhishma Dev, my great accomplishment was just a flow of time and someone else was playing through me. So similarly, Brahma is trying to convince Priyavrat and then also Agnidra, and same thing comes to Nabhi in the same pattern. That if you are able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the center of your life, then every act you perform can be engaged in the service of the Lord. Actually, even in our own simple services which we do in temples, say let's say managing temple, doing deity worship, doing some preaching and all, and we get overwhelmed with so many festivals and programs and challenges which come throughout, and each time we have to deal, and we tend to think that it's sometimes we are successful, sometimes we are not successful, and we have all the grades in between failure and success, all those things. But when you look back, maybe after a certain age, or when you do services for many years, when you look back, you will realize sometimes you will find yourself as a stranger to your own activities. How did I actually do this 10 years ago, 20 years ago? After a certain age, when you cross certain age and you lose all your abilities to serve in that manner in which you were serving earlier. Ask those devotees who have served the movement for 40, 50 years. They do have a memory of what they did, but they feel I can never do that. I still wonder how I actually did this. They themselves are wondering that was it actually me? And they can actually see that during that time when I was thinking that I was doing things, it was actually the plan of the Lord in some manner. They can see the presence of these divine forces. A great devotee always recognizes, not intellectually, not by scriptural understanding, but he feels that in all the different services I do, there is an energy of the Lord which is flowing through me and it is engaging me in this service. And sometimes we are not able to see that, and we think ourselves to be the doer. Therefore, beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells to Arjun, Ahankarat vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. It is only when a person is overwhelmed with his false ego. See, we all have some ego, and some identity has to be there. You cannot function without any identity. There has to be some sense of who I am. Even in the physical level, okay, I am a boy, I am a girl, I am a male, female, I am a pujari, I am whatever I am. There must be some definition. But within that definition, if we are overwhelmed with that definition, then we will not be able to recognize the hand of God, the hand of acharyas which is working through us. It's always there, mystical. And we have seen invariably devotees or those practitioners who sincerely chant, eventually they are able to accomplish many things. Maybe not in just the external sense, but in their manner, in the matter, in how they conduct their affairs of life, how they conduct services and so on. They can accomplish many things. But those, for one whose sadhana becomes very weak, one who cannot chant, suddenly he finds those things which he was doing nicely, he finds it difficult to do. He loses the taste. He loses the skills. I have personally seen devotees who were never good in singing, who were so shy they could never face audience, they would never want to speak. They knew so much, but if they have to speak in front of 10 people, they could not. But somehow, those very people, when they came to the programs, they suddenly started doing some services, they started chanting, and over a period of time, some of them became very successful preachers, some became very good singers, some excellent managers, suddenly having such an intense social life, engaging with so many people. So we sometimes don't realize how much of our sadhana and our spiritual activities is attracting the divine forces and the mercy, what we call with the name mercy and all. But it's actually those divine energies which we are attracting, which act through us. And because it acts through us, we start feeling that, okay, I am doing this, I am creating wonders. But it's actually not true. And by the mercy of Lord, if we are sincere enough, we all will truly be able to experience this beyond words. That if one can simply somehow subdue the ego a little bit, you can see the play of God. And then life becomes pretty much easier with all the difficulties. And this is what exactly Brahma convinces Priya. That my dear Priya, ultimately a wise soul or one who is surrendered to Krishna, he sees that every single part of this creation is actually designed to naturally serve him. So even when we try to attempt to not serve him, essentially we are going to serve him in an indirect manner, because nothing of this creation will work without his interest. This is the most baffling and the sweetest thing in both ways. Baffling to the materialistic, intelligent mind, that even if I am trying to do something against the desire of God, I cannot actually accomplish it. See, in the Mahabharata, a wonderful episode comes when Bhishma, who is trying to fight on the side of Kauravas, and he recognizes that although I am fighting on the side of Kauravas, in the name of duty, I am being unjust to the Pandava forces. I am not right. This is not the right thing to do. But he is unable to give up, unable to make up that decision. He is not able to give up the side of the Kauravas. At that time, he approaches Krishna and says, you do something. I am so weak. My intelligence is not allowing me to take the side of the Pandavas. I am unable to decide properly. Although I say that I am unable to decide, yet I have decided to fight on the Kauravas side. And I know that this is wrong. But I do not want to do anything which is against your interest. So imagine a devotee telling to Krishna that what I am doing is not in your interest, but somehow I want to see that you are somehow, even my wrong action falls or is used by you to further your own plans. Jai Jagannatha Baldev Subhadra Gaur Nitai Bhagwan Ki Jai. So it is interesting, although he recognizes his flaws, but he wants the Lord to use his flaws in the service. Krishna is pretty much pleased with that. He says, since you are a wise person and you are devoted to me, although currently you are blocked by your own intelligence and therefore you are sticking to this, I will somehow use your own weakness and your own faults to engage my plan, to engage in my grand plan. And then he says, but then you should not complain for whatever consequences you have to face. I will engage your limitations, but then your limitations will have certain consequences. If you are anyways so devoted to me, you should be okay with the consequences also. Take the consequences as a part of my service also then. And Bhishma accepts that argument. He says, okay, as long as my limitations are going to be used in Lord's plan, he's relieved. So these things are somehow inconceivable to us. And we see in our own, we do see in our own services sometimes. Like I'll give an example. There was one devotee who used to do so nice service. But over a period of time, he became so controlling. You know, some devotees have this mentality that they like to do service only if they can control very nicely. If they have to do service with less control, then they cannot do. So this person would do, and he started micromanaging the services too much. And because of that micromanagement, he would burn out so many devotees. But then, new people would not come because he would threaten them. He would burn out devotees within 2 or 3 months of service. And it would appear to the larger group of devotees that, you know, at the end of the day, there is nobody there to serve. He only has to serve. But then the management knew that it is only he doing that service because he is not allowing someone else. He is also burning out devotees. But he is also very committed. So, I'm sure Damodar Prasad Prabhu must have seen all grades of devotees. When you are leading a temple, you do see excellent devotees can do so nice, but they are so poor with human management skills and interacting with people. And some who are so good in talking to people, but they are totally unreliable as far as responsibility of services is concerned. So you have all the grades in between. So there was a great challenge within the management, how to deal with this situation. So then it was a simple calculation. Let him commit mistakes enough so that he can be removed. You cannot just act on the first complaint. We knew that, okay, removed means not that his spirit of service should not be destroyed or disturbed. But the position, it is a very tactful thing to do. But then we had to wait for many, many complaints to happen. So we knew now a new devotee is coming in that service. We knew that after 3 months he is going to get burnt out. But then we had to allow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 devotees to get burnt out so that it becomes a big portfolio of mishandling of a service to tell him that, see Prabhu, when there was first complaint we did not act considering that he or she may be wrong. But there is complaint coming from so many people only about one thing, not about the way you do your services and all. It's just the way you manage it. You're doing a lot of service, let's say you're doing a lot of cooking, you're doing beautiful decorations, you're doing so. So no doubt you're committed, no doubt you're disciplined, no doubt you're doing, but then we cannot have a community like this. So you need to accommodate others. So the offense had to be committed to a certain level before an action was taken. So think in this manner. If in normal circumstance also, even the society does not punish us for every small mistake, the law will also excuse us if it's a small crime the first time. 1 or 2, 3 times. And they wait so that we reach a threshold and then the act happens. So, accommodating our mistakes also is part of the society from the point of law. So we may say that the law is allowing us to commit a mistake, but it's not exactly it's allowing, it's accommodating you. Ultimately the law will fit all your mistakes and everything in the plan. If you cross a threshold, suddenly the thing comes into place. So, in that sense, the great devotees of the Lord understand that although I may act in a manner which may not exactly be like, for example, Priyavrat and Agnidra had to be part of family life. They understood that, they were explained that ultimately, even if you are a demon, you may commit wrong acts. Krishna will see to use your demonship or your demonhood to fulfill his objective of establishing dharma. when Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing the universe, when Ravan is terrorizing the universe, when all the devatas go to Vishnu, what does he say? Don't worry. It has to come till a point, and that will become the reason for me to appear, and I will establish dharma. So a devotee does not see, of course, even while recognizing one's shortcomings and while recognizing one's limitations, a devotee takes full responsibility of his or her own actions, but is devoted to the Lord, that, my dear Lord, I know I have these flaws, I know I have these limitations. Please somehow engage me with this whole messy attitude, just somehow engage it in devotional service. And in that spirit, devotees are encouraged to engage in grihastha ashram, brahmachari ashram, sannyas ashram, and so on. All the ashrams are a mess, basically. It's not that grihastha ashram is a greater mess or less. All the ashrams are a mess. The only ashram which there is no mess is Paramhans ashram, which does not exist in the Kali Yuga. Paramhans means there are no roles, like a Babaji, no roles, no responsibilities, nothing at all, and I just breathe Brahman, that's it. Even sannyasis are not like that. So, the entire lineage of Nabhi is engaged in that manner. And interestingly, what a lineage. 7 sons of Priyavrat has 10 sons from one wife. 7 become the in charge of the 7 planetary systems. 3 of them become sannyasis. The other 3 sons from another wife, they become Manus. Can you imagine having such grandfather lineage? Everybody is the father of mankind. 3 members of your family are fathers of mankind. Other 3 are the rulers of the planetary systems. Other 7. And so on. So it is very contrasting. Great devotees of the Lord, they are engaged by the Lord in householder life, fully engaged with children and pleasures of the world in intense ways for about 1 billion years, not a short span of time. And they are also fully satisfied with their wives, with all the pleasures of the world, and at the same time, constantly remembering, why am I getting distracted? Why am I getting distracted? And at one point of time, automatically, when the will of the Lord is satisfied, that same person who was so engaged in these mundane worldly affairs develops a sudden transformation. Therefore, in the science of progress or anartha nivritti, progressing, cleansing our mind, not every pleasure is seen as an obstacle for growth. Certain pleasures are essential for growth. One should not see every single thing as just pleasure and pain and sensory and non-sensory. If these pleasures and senses, actually the senses are designed so that we get certain experiences which are meaningful and pleasuring. And through that, we also satisfy ourselves, and gradually we give up those pleasures. If one does not get those basic pleasures which are necessary, one will come back to seek them. The only purpose of all these ashrams is to facilitate different kinds of pleasures at different stages so that we move on gradually and stabilize ourselves. Otherwise, one cannot artificially simply go to the rivers and mountains and caves and forests and achieve perfection. It is impossible. So the process to perfection also is not just a very linear, straightforward, no bumps, no hiccups, no obstacles. No, it has all these things which will happen. Temporary fall downs, temporary distractions, all these things will keep coming and going. The only thing which will keep us going on to the path nicely is a good sadhana, sincerely taking shelter of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Once that is there, everything else will get sorted out. Just the sadhana has to be very good. Thank you all. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
I feel you're the right person to ask this question. It's very learned. I always struggle with this that, our philosophy is achintya veda veda tattva.
Mm-hmm.
So it's at the same time one and different. And you were just making this point of, how the unity is lying beneath all of it. But sometimes it feels like how to practically apply that. It's so difficult. It's achintya to understand. And you were making this point, for example, the demons who are actually great devotees like Vritrasura, and it's actually one of the main stories of the Bhagavatam, right, to show this point. So how can we really understand it, or what should we just not try to understand, or how to deal with that? So it seems like it's at the end everything is relative. You cannot tell from anything. And Mahaprabhu he's defeating his own arguments and like establishing the absolute truth, then defeating that with my math philosophy the other way around. So it's like, okay, what is actually true?
Yeah, so see, knowledge is a very mystifying thing. When we were young, we used to learn. The counting started with real numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how you could understand things. And we felt that is what is maths all about. I see these many people and I count, simple, and I don't see there is no number. That same mathematics had an element of something called subtraction later. And that got even more complex when it had negative numbers. First the decimals came, that made it even more complex, 1.3, 1.4. Then you had negative numbers. Then you had square root of negative numbers. The most ridiculous calculations started coming. And so on. So even at that level, when you see, there is no meaning to negative numbers as such. Like there is nothing called negative 3 people. Like we are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is no negative 3 technically. But for the sake of grand understanding of things, negative numbers also has its value. When it is put in a perspective, in itself there is nothing negative, right? There is no -3. There can be +3, but there can never be -3. But when it is put in a perspective that 8 minus 3 is 5, then -3 has a value. Otherwise there is nothing called negative numbers. So it's a concept which really doesn't exist, but will exist only if it is in a perspective. Similarly, when we talk about those who are not serving the Lord, demons for that matter, that is a concept only when it is in a perspective. Otherwise, it is not possible that one cannot serve the interests of the Lord. By design, everyone is following the order of creation, by design itself. So it's just not possible that someone is going to act anti-God or anti-Krishna. It is just technically not possible. So in that sense. But then, when we are growing in devotional service, the little freedom is given to the living entity. That you have a choice whether you serve in a favorable manner or you serve in a manner which is technically not favorable. So like Rupa Goswami tries to speak in a very simpler manner, anukulyenu krishnanu anushilanam. So technically it's like we can choose how to further the plan. This is a game of Krishna which is going. You have a choice whether you play part in the negative roles or you play part in the positive roles. To play part in the positive roles, these are the rules and regulations which qualify that what we technically call as devotee in bhakti literature, but essentially it is just aligning the energies with the actual flow of energy. Now when a demon, he is aligning his energies not in the flow of that energy, but in the sense that, like when Krishna is fighting with, when Narsimhadev is fighting with Hiranyakashipu, the clash is satisfying the demon, devotees. It sends a message that ultimately I will subdue the demoniac forces. If everything was just favorable, how do you create definitions? Imagine everyone is simply just a devotee as we see. Then how do you actually define what is negative? So therefore certain things have to be done. So in the initial stage of learning, just as we learn mathematics, we are taught with these clear things. This is this. But as you go deeper and deeper, you understand that no. There is a great purpose in this also. Let's say, for example, when the devotees are bewildered, they go to the devatas, Indra and Surya, and they what to do. And sometimes they are bewildered, they go to Brahma. They say, what to do? There is so much chaos. And most of the time, Brahma can solve the case. He says, okay, there is no need to worry. It's just a plan in action. Within some time, so and so person will appear and he'll sort this problem. Meanwhile, you lay low. Right now you are confused because you cannot see the grand picture. So Brahma tries to tell the devatas, think beyond yourself, think in a grander scheme of things, with a greater span of time. Now because Brahma lives so long, he can think with a longer span. Our life is short, so we are short. Tomorrow this happened, day after tomorrow, in 10 years I'll be nowhere. What is 10 years in Brahma's time? Like, oh, don't bother anything. Don't bother your success, don't bother your failures. Sometimes Brahma is bewildered, so they have to go to Lord Shiva. And he is a fellow who is probably, he always has answers for everything. He's like not bewildered with anything at all. And even sometimes when he is bewildered, they all go to Lord Vishnu. Because why do they approach Vishnu? Because they understand that it is not possible that Vishnu does not have an answer or a purpose, and it is not possible that something is just randomly happening. They just go that if this person has become such a terrorizing rascal, demon or whatever he is, but I am getting overwhelmed with the sensory experiences because of the chaos, I cannot make sense of it. Can you put some sense? So Vishnu then, by his arguments, he takes the intelligence of these people, he lifts them to his intellect. Their small intellect, he lifts them to his time scale and says, don't worry, I am going to appear soon, and for me to appear, someone like this must happen. But know for sure, if he is terrorizing someone, it's all part of the karmic cycle which people they have engaged themselves. So he cannot torture someone who should not be tortured. So from Vishnu's side, he does not see the chaos in the countries of one. It may appear very controversial, but he does not see the exploited and the exploiter differently, because he knows that the exploiter will be able to exploit the exploited only if that person has the karmic equation both ways. However, our duty is not to act as Vishnu. Our duty is to act as human beings. I have to act. So I have to protect the exploited. I have to fight for it. I have to, as a devotee. As a normal human being. We don't need to be devoted for this also. But if I see some injustice happening, if I have common sense, I should fight for it. I should strive to remove that injustice in someone else's life. Charity begins at home. I may not be able to fight the issues all across the world, but okay, if I see someone in my neighborhood, within the ashram, within the temple, within devotees, wherever my outreach is, I try to do my needful. understanding well that the final result will happen according to the law of karma. So I don't fight just to eradicate the problem, I fight because it is my duty to fight. So Krishna tells to Arjuna, right? Do not get attached to the results. Because ultimately the result is the grand scheme of calculations of too many people's karmas and so many things. It's not just a battlefield of Kurukshetra where you all people just decided to come. No, I am doing the calculations of hundreds of lifetimes of good and bad and evil and all that people have done, and everything I am going to sort it out. So ultimately, I am not going to tell you the result in the beginning. You do your part. So these things are what is called as achintya, very inconceivable how the thing works. So Krishna expects a devotee, or the Bhagavatam expects a devotee to have intelligence at two levels. One is, what is my duty and what is my role, which I must do. Second is, ultimately whatever happens, it's going to fit in the grand scheme of Krishna. So just because I understand that there is a plan of Krishna in place and therefore I don't do anything, that's a wrong idea. That's a misuse of intelligence. So Krishna tells to Arjuna, right? I have no duties to perform, still I am doing duty. I don't remember that verse. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, I have actually no duties and karma which I need to perform. Still I am doing my duties. So Arjuna, you are actually bound to duties. Why should you not do the duties just because I may say that ultimately you may lose the battlefield? So I'll not do any duty? No. That makes no sense. So both levels of intelligence has to be we have to simultaneously operate at both levels. One level is the level of appreciation. There we don't exactly have to operate. You understand, whatever happens, it's in the plan of God. In the larger scheme of things, when we go through certain situations in the larger, when you look back, you will understand that, oh no, it was essential, it was necessary, this is the reason how it shaped why I am good or bad or whatever I am today is because of certain situations. We understand that. So, although theoretically it appears very difficult, but I'll tell you, in my own life, I think in 2011, 12 or something, I went through so much trauma, emotional disturbance in the institutional, certain issues were going on. And I was just thinking that ultimately it's the plan of God. Theoretically you understand this. And I was trying to appreciate those situations. I could not. Literally I spent months of sleepless nights because my mind could not resolve, could not adjust with the injustice which I was seeing repeatedly happening again and again and again. So many things happened because of that. But those few months of extreme trauma, only thing I would do is I would just focus that, okay, I should just wake up, do the Mangalarti, do a little bit of puja, finish my rounds and not think of anything else. Let whatever has to happen, happen, because I could not control. And I was just seeing some kind of exploitation and wrong things happening by certain individuals. Then eventually things started healing themselves. Some devotees left, some things changed, many things changed, and I also changed over a period of time. And then I became peaceful. Because through that pain, literally I still remember that pain pushed me, that lifted me and put me in some other position, because I was forced to naturally. And it took me for a while to adjust in that new role, in the manner in which I was. My services, nothing changed. It was just the idea in the manner in which I was conducting, the attitude in which. It became so beautiful that I started appreciating the pain to that degree. I thought that, oh, if this trauma brought me here, then whenever the next trauma comes, it's definitely going to take me somewhere. Provided my sadhana, I am sincere and I am not manipulating, no problem. But I was not ready for the next trauma. I thought that, okay, I've just had enough. Right now I'm just happy, let me breathe. But 3 years later, again a situation came. But the difference was, I could embrace it. Although I was disturbed, same, because you have to deal with chaos, right? You have to deal with broken hearts and people complaining, someone is lying and cheating and so many, all those things keep happening. I just assured everyone that, just go through this situation, something wonderful will come up. And some beautiful things happened. Amazing things happened. Then I could appreciate that verse which Brahmaji prays, right? A devotee is grateful under all circumstances. Then I could appreciate to some degree why Brahma prays, because he also is baffled at his intellect level. But then if a devotee simply develops a attitude of gratitude and patience, then he starts seeing that, okay, not everything needs to work in my pace, in my style, in my way. Sometimes if, with all my intelligence, if things are not happening still properly, that means God He's owning this. Just yesterday I came to know that there's going to be 50 years of Gaur Nitai, right? Next weekend? Or this weekend? Next weekend. I was just so surprised. Gauru Prabhu was just telling me, sometimes I wonder what exactly are we doing in the whole process of devotional service. What am I doing, and what exactly am I doing in Switzerland, what exactly I am doing in I told him, don't think too much. It's good to be introspective. It's good to, as long as you are thinking about your own purification, that much is fine, but don't think, because it's baffling. I said, just imagine. And we were just talking that the brahmacharis, Krishna Prem Roop, Damodar Prasad Prabhu and all of you, we were just saying that 50 years ago Gaur Nitai came. The ones who brought Gaur Nitai, they never thought that they would not be here maybe after a few years. None of those people who brought Gaur Nitai are there today. And they did their service. They went. Someone else came, carried on the burden, they went. You all are here, who knows till when. And in the 100 years of celebration, none of us will be here. Gaur Nitai will be still there. There may be 10 devotees or 100 devotees. So I was just telling that Prabhu, it's even for Prabhupada's life, if we see, he was an old man, 70 years of age, and he had a team of devotees who were 20 years of age. Can you imagine like he's actually talking to his grandchildren who have no cultural experience whatsoever. This guy is a traditional Indian person. And then you have extreme hippie Western people. And then and suddenly he departed in 10 years. They were just running temples trying to figure out exactly, okay, we have manual of Mangalarti, how to chant, how to cook. So I told, things are baffling even in our 50-year lifespan. What to talk of someone who is playing in 1 million or 10 million or 10 billion years. So sometimes not to think too much. What is my role, what is my duty, just do it. Leave the other things. That was one very big lesson I learned, and then I could appreciate things so well. Then tolerating some things are also easy. So as long as someone is not consciously like a demon kind of a setup, especially in our temples and all, it's not a problem. And if you are really, you have a role of playing the police or dealing with terrorists and big terrorist organizations, individual mafias are easier to deal, but when you are dealing with terrorist organizations, it's serious. Then it's difficult. Then you clearly know. For example, this person is a demon, ultimately he is empowered by the Lord, but my duty is to kill him. And in this fight, I may die. That is possible. But my duty is to fight. So why to worry? Krishna tells to Arjuna, why are you worrying when an Atma is never destroyed? There is nothing called life and death. He begins the Gita with this. Hey, nobody ever dies. Relax. Just remove the tool. He is misusing the tool of the body and the senses, a human body, and that's why he's creating so much chaos. Just remove the tool. What will happen of the Atma? I will make him an insect or an animal somewhere. You just remove the tool, which what we call as death. It's nothing but taking away the tool, the mischief from the soul who is misusing the body. Okay, I'll take this. Give him a new body to play. Insect, cockroach, mosquito. You understand? So both intelligence has to operate. I hope it made some sense. So one of the names of Krishna is Aprameya. Definition: Aprameya Rishikesha. Aprameya. Prameya means object. Prameya means object of knowledge. Valid objects of knowledge. Whatever we learn, the learning has to lead to something which is meaningful. Otherwise, if the learning is not leading to something meaningful, that is not considered as a valid object of knowledge. Like I learn something and then I craft a dream. It's not considered. My painting is not considered valid object of knowledge because it may not have a reality. It's an object, but it's not considered object of knowledge. So, when we go to the core of it in the Nyaya Shastras also, Krishna is considered the ultimate object of knowledge. But then, the definition of Bhagavatam says he is aprameya, means he is such a valid object of knowledge which is not conceivable. How do you say an inconceivable thing is a valid object of knowledge? You understand the total opposite things. He is the supreme absolute truth who cannot be conceived. How is that knowledge? That is why it comes. When you get into the grand scheme of things, there is nothing good, nothing bad. No demon, no devotee.
But that's where it sounds so Mayavadi.
It sounds Mayavadi. So what does Mayavadi do? Mayavadis, they don't focus, they don't see the purpose behind the dualities. See, Bhagavad itself is saying, right, these things. They don't differentiate between the being enjoying with these family members and sannyasi. And like this is total opposite. The difference between Mayavadi is Mayavad does not acknowledge the presence of God clearly and distinctly. They try to merge things too much that they don't see the difference between God and themselves. That is Mayavadi. They see that even the presence of God itself is illusion. That is Mayavadi. Impersonalism and Mayavada are two different things. Not every impersonalist is a Mayavadi. Shukdev Goswami is an impersonalist who appreciates Krishna. One who has spoken Bhagavatam. He is an impersonalist. According to his own definition, according to Vyasa himself. Mayavad specifically is, Mayavadis are attracted to impersonalism, but they take impersonalism to a nihilistic attitude, like saying therefore there is no God. And if there is God, then because there is form, and like us, therefore that is Maya. It's a part of this material existence. And it has the properties of material existence. It has the limitations of material existence. Just that part is Mayavad. For us, Achintya Bheda Bhed is another form of Mayavad in that sense, right? If someone does not take, if you don't see Bhed and you see only Abhed, then it has a tendency to become a Mayavad. You should read the Bhagavad Gita chapter, just one purport, can you just give me? We have time till, it's 8:50, till what time?
Yeah.
I'll just read a nice few words. Just. It's a very good question of impersonalism and Mayavad. We are not against impersonalism. We are.
Also, if we say Achintya Veda Veda, then basically.
Is that?
But I mean also it can be like total whitewash. Okay, so that doesn't explain anything.
So I'll
It's like what the Mayavad is saying, right? Yeah, no, everything is one. So then, what's the use of this?
So you should read this.
You don't understand, therefore, yeah, it's just inconceivable and so on.
Okay. So this is the purport to text number 8 of chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute Truth. Rasoham apsu kaunteya, prabhasmi shashi shuryo, pranava sarva videshu, shabdakhe purusho, purusham nrushu. So see the purport. So this is a verse which says, Krishna says, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, and the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the ability in man. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport, the taste of the water is the active principle of water. No one likes to drink sea water because the pure taste of water is mixed with salt. Attraction for water depends on the purity of the taste, and this pure taste is one of the energies of the Lord. The impersonalist perceives the presence of the Lord in the water by its taste, and the personalist glorifies the Lord for his kindly supplying tasty water to quench a man's thirst. That is the way of perceiving the Supreme. Practically speaking, there is no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. One who knows God knows that the impersonal conception and the personal conception are simultaneously present in everything, and that there is no contradiction. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya Bhed and Abhed Tattva, simultaneously oneness and difference. Beautiful, right? So like that you will find so many purports. But then in the initial, that's why I gave the example, right? We are at the earlier stage of mathematics, so this thing becomes baffling. For example, the prasad is divine, right? But the same prasad can cause diabetes, can cause cancer. It is Achintya Bheda Ved. It is divine, but it can. Why? If you don't eat in the proper manner, in the proper way, right? It can become devastating. So even in normal levels, you cannot exactly clearly define only one attribute. Like this thing. So even text number 5.3 and 5.4 are also very interesting. Let's just read those translations. Mm-hmm. What are you talking in German?
I thought maybe we read this before.
Yeah. Sankhya yoga prithak bala pravadanti na pandita. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service different from the analytical study of the material world. Those who are actually learned say that one who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. One who knows the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and therefore one who sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level sees things as they are. So these are just different approaches. The essential part is one is seeking the truth. So if I am worshipping Jagannatha and Gaur Nitai, but if my worship is just purely ritualistic, and I do things expertly, but then I am not careful about how I deal with devotees, and I am not careful about my ego and envy and honor and prestige, I am seeking all those things, then it has the whole purpose. I am not seeking the truth. I am actually seeking my own glorification through that. So it fails. So essential part is you have to seek the truth. So I may not understand Jagannath, but as if I am seeking the truth through my actions, through my behavior and interacting with the world, somehow same Jagannath will appear. I may not be seeking him, but he'll appear. Just like Prahlad Maharaj was not thinking of nursing Dev. Prahlad Maharaj was chanting Narayan because there was no idea of half man, half lion till that time, right? He was chanting Narayan, 400 form. But then suddenly Lord appeared as nursing Dev. So you may be doing some sadhana with seeking the truth in some manner, but when the Lord decides to appear, he may not exactly appear in that exact same. But then nobody understood that nursing Dev is actually God. They were all bewildered that there was already one demon and now someone else is fighting the demon. And he's even more terrorizing. So, is he protecting or he is going to become the greater demon after replacing him? That was the problem with all. Nobody could pacify. Brahma, Lord Shiva, everybody is scared to approach him. When no one could recognize him so clearly, Prahlad Maharaj could recognize, no, he is the all-compassionate, loving Vishnu himself. How did he recognize? Did the Lord come and tell, actually it's me, okay, I'm going to come in this form? No. Krishna reveals in the heart. So ultimately, I may be seeing the forms of Jagannatha and Gaur-Nitaya and I know the Shastras say that he looks like this and this and all that is fine. But unless that revelation does not happen in the heart, we don't feel him as part of our... We still feel that in my little corner, nobody is observing me. Because I cannot feel the presence of God, right? I am reading about it every day. But I cannot feel. So at any stage of life there is achintya bheda bhed. So because I have my different corners where I have my another life going on. So okay, then this is the altar. Here you don't do anything. Here you behave nicely. Here you worship with neat and tidy clothes and timing and so on. Because I cannot see God everywhere, I at least begin with an altar, right? I begin with a temple, I begin with a devotee. At some stage you will say, what is the difference between a devotee and non-devotee? Any human being, any living entity is supposed to serve the Lord and I am supposed to serve the Lord and do everything for every human being. So for a devotee, for someone who is in the process of devotional service, he does not even see a difference between devotee and non-devotee. That difference is only for existential reasons like... But essentially everybody, he sees everyone as part of Samadarshina, Pandita Samadarshina. He sees no difference between a dog and dog eater and elephant. So as you progress at the level of intellect, a Mayavadi, he only tries to speculate. And a devotee, he does not speculate. He progresses at the level of intellect where he sees that oneness, at the same time he can see the presence of God. So this purport is very beautiful. You can read hundreds of times. It's very mystifying. There is no meeting to water without the taste of water. So someone sees the water and thanks, oh my Krishna, you're so beautiful. And someone appreciates the taste because he sees that actually, you all are appreciating the water, but if I put a little bit of salt, you will not like it. That means it is the taste of water which is the essential element in the water which you are appreciating. So these are two different approaches. Some people approach in this manner, some people approach in that manner. But as long as they see the truth, there is no problem. Mayavadi removes the truth and he brings it to his level. That is the only problem. An impersonalist is not a Mayavadi. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's I think the same verse. I'll take the following.
Same verse?
The verse is different, but it is the same thing.
Okay.
So maybe in the Bhagavatam class, when you put the schedule, clubs few verses. Like in this verse, she's sitting next to him. In the next verse, she heard everything. Like that.
But it has a longer purport, the next one.
Just a few lines.
They didn't change the budget. But now it's half an hour.
Anyways, now we discuss. I'm going to go a little bit ahead, it's time, right?
And it's the end, right?
Yeah, it's time, yeah. We will discuss the same thing.
It's up to you.
Yeah, same thing.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
You were driving?
Yeah, I drove it.
Okay.
I parked the car, there was space here.
Oh yeah. Good.
Fortunately, there was space.
That's it.
How many devotees do the worship? Like every day?
You mean like in the morning?
While the dressing, yeah?
It depends. Sometimes we have two. One devotee doing the Shilas and the Jota dittis,
Okay.
and one doing the Darshan dittis. And sometimes we have three, depending if they are trained. Because if you are alone, only two, then we need to be compared.
Yeah.
Usually it's not that often. So today I think today was two doing worship.
We have a lot of duties. Worship, dress, do Abhijit, Bhagavad. So these were the deities 50 years ago? Wow.
Yeah, it's quite.
I was like, yesterday night when God Prabhu said, I was stunned, 50 years. And he said in the context that he was saying, I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Wait, I said, don't do, keep doing. Sometimes you get really that, you get disillusioned just doing the services repeatedly again and again, and you feel, and sometimes you feel that devotees come, some go every time, there's is steady or things change. So you're going to feel that what exactly am I doing? So the way Prabhupada came here, those people who established these temples, they are no longer here. He said, you are here, how long nobody knows.
Yeah.
Even if we saw 10 or 15 years, there's a mystical plan in place. They are not here for no reason, right? We may think Prabhupada established temple, but someone who knows they see that no, Jagannatha or Gauranga, Krishna may have a plan and he engaged Prabhupada to do this. There's a very big plan in place, right?
Yeah, it's natural that I also feel like that sometimes.
Yeah. We are in the way. We don't feel that we are doing really well. 15 years now. Can you
Yeah, it would have been nice if you were near then.
Yeah, I was not aware. Next Saturday, Sunday, I have to be in the US.
Now you're coming from India, going to the US. And how long are you going to be in there?
I'll be there for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
In New York.
Mostly I'm in New York, and otherwise 2 weeks I'm in Dallas, Texas. And another 2 weeks in Atlanta. Not much.
Atlanta, the regular ISKCON temple?
Not regular temple. I didn't visit them, but there are some devotees who I'm visiting. They have the 10th anniversary of their meetings, and so they are able to come.
temple. These young devotees.
Krishna is there. Is there also in New York? Krishna House, they have Krishna House.
In New York?
Yeah, they have Krishna House in New York also. Also in Dallas. But not all Krishna houses are very successful.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing good.
Yeah, I would like to hear from you also about you take prasad now?
I generally, I'll take something.
About this temple opening, I'm curious because last time we spoke, we said it was an explosion.
First few months it was an explosion. Now it's late season time, right?